Hello, this is Gareth from the iMoot team. It is my great pleasure to welcome Fred Dixon from Big Blue Button, without whom the conference would be rather shorter and be virtually impossible to do, with a wonderful Big Blue Button tour that we're all getting to know and love. So once again, on behalf of myself and the iMoot team, thank you, Fred, for joining us and spending the time to talk about Big Blue Button. Over to you.
Great. Thanks a lot for the introduction, Gareth. So my name is Fred Dixon. I actually wear two hats. The discussion we'll have today, which I'll share with you the roadmap. The hat that I'll be wearing is the product manager for Big Blue Button, open source web conferencing system for online learning. And the other time I'll mention, it's only at the beginning here, I'm also the CEO of Blindside Networks. We're providing the hosting for Big Blue Button to iMoot, and we also maintain the Moodle recording as well. And I have Jesus here as well, because Jesus is the author of the Moodle integration, which is what we're also using in iMoot. So I'm going to go through a little bit of background of the product, where we are to date, what our current release is, the roadmap ahead, and open it up for questions afterwards. So in a nutshell, Big Blue Button is an open source web conferencing system for online learning. It started, 7-8 years ago at Carleton University. And has had over 8 years of development. So it actually started a bit longer than that, around 2007. We're almost like 9 years. So lots of good development got into it, localized in 25 languages. One measure of success for an open source project is how many design wins that it had, how many other projects built on top of it. The largest deployment of Big Blue Button is at the US Department of Defense. And they have deployed a system internally, which they publicly state they expect to save over $12 million a year. So that was a huge design win for the project. So for those of you who are not familiar with Big Blue Button, which I'm probably sure everybody here is, real-time sharing of audio, video, slides, chat, desktop, polls, and emote icons. We kind of focus on 3 use cases: one-to-one, which is like virtual office hours, online tutoring; small group collaboration, where everybody shares their webcam; and one-to-many, which is the traditional course, where the teacher's uploading slides and students are following along and asking questions. A couple screenshots. This is with 4 people sharing their webcam. Here's another layout, same 4 people. Here's a recent session we had where there's 15 people. These are part of the larger development group that works on Big Blue Button. And we, of course, use Big Blue Button to work on Big Blue Button. Lots of good activity on GitHub. So we've been forked over 3,000 times, and you can see the activity in GitHub goes all the way back to 2008. So it's been a very active project over the years. There are 7 core committers that are responsible for ensuring that everything that gets checked into the project meets the level of standards that we try to achieve. And these people are basically taking care of maintaining a lot of the core, but there's a larger group of people who send them pull requests, and these review it. We hold a developer summit every 6 months where we get together with the core developers and the broader development community. There is a lot of development that goes on in Brazil. And we go down there once a year, and they actually come up once a year. So here's the last, a recent developer summit we had in November 2014. Our 6th one was in Ottawa. The 7th one was back in Brazil. And the 8th one here, the most recent one, in Ottawa. This was only, a few weeks ago. Just in terms of how we focus and put priorities in the project, our focus and my focus is always on the job of teaching and learning. We want to be able to instruct students, enable teachers to instruct students, and enable students to get on with the job of learning. So there's other use cases that you can imagine for web conferencing. We focus on one, which is online learning. We release on quality, not dates, which means we are willing to test and to QA a release as long as it takes before we reach that level of quality. And the quality really is, we describe it internally as it's got to be at least, if it's got to be more solid than the previous release. And there's been some really solid releases. So the stability of the product has always been a focus of us, and open source as well. And of course, we kind of under promise, over deliver, which if you've been following the project, our version numbers are very low, or have been very low, and we kind of just released 1.0, which is actually like our 15th release or so. So we want people to come to the project and say, oh, okay, I've heard about this, and then kind of see that there's a lot of stuff behind this. In terms of measurement of success, probably the single measurement that I look for, if a school or college or educational institution, and when I say educational institution, it could be like a commercial company that has, you know, online training for their products. Do they want to use Big Blue Button? Are there things that we're doing in the product that say, I want to use Big Blue Button outside of all the other choices? That's, for me, the key. And we've seen examples where people come to us because of ease of use or less support effort, and a few other things as well. Design wins, obviously the US Department of Defense was a huge one. And the growth of the Big Blue Button ecosystem, which is how many people using Big Blue Button, installing it, tweeting about it, forking it, liking it, the whole bit. I put this slide because we focus on online learning, and we do try to integrate with the major learning management systems out there and do a very deep integration. So Moodle is front and center. It is by far the deepest, most evolved, closest integration we have. But it's also beneficial for the project to be integrated with others. So we have an integration with Sakai, an integration with Canvas, Schoology, Genzabar, and there's a number of other open source projects as well, learning management systems that we integrate with as well. This provides Big Blue Button the ability to state that it is our target market, and we want to make sure that if you're using a learning management system, you have access to Big Blue Button. But Moodle is by far the deepest integration. And also as evidenced by Moodle Cloud, which we are embedded in as well. You get it if you go sign up for a free Moodle Cloud, you'll get Big Blue Button up for 6 users, no recordings. And in terms of the plugin, there are 2 plugins we have. The Big Blue Button BN plugin, which is the integration that we recommend and we maintain. It works right up to version 3.1. And it has seen many, many downloads. I just checked the stats. I think of the 1,000 plugins available at Moodle, it's ranking number 15 or so in terms of downloads. And Recordings BN is something which is kind of optional now, but it actually groups together all the recordings in a session into one tab. And I'm going to give you a couple of visuals of what the integration looks like for those of you who haven't seen it. So once you have installed the Big Blue Button BN plugin, you can go to Moodle, you can add it as an activity. There are just 2 things you have to say, whether you want to give it a name, and whether you want to send notifications to students in the course that you've added it. There are other options as well. You can give it a description. You can specify, do you want the description on the course page, the welcome message? That's the blue text you see in the chat. Do you want students to be unable to join until you join? You as the instructor who joins as a moderator. The session, do you want it to be able to record it? Do you want to tag the recordings? And that's the notifications as well. And then you can map roles in Moodle to roles in Big Blue Button, a viewer or a moderator. This lets you create a room where you could say, hey, this is a breakout room or a group room where anybody can go in and they'll all be moderators, and you can make yourself presenter and share slides and collaborate and so on. And you can also have it appear in the Moodle calendar as well. Ah, nice, we're moving up, 14th overall. And that's an example of what it looks like if you give it a description, what it appears. When you click to join, it will give the description, it will show you if there are any recordings, and it'll give a button to join the session. And when you join, if you haven't yet as the instructor, you can tag what the name of it is and give a description. This helps you see in the recordings the various sessions. The idea here is if you use the same room over and over again for each week for recordings, which makes it simple. You only have to put 1 link on the page for the activity module, the Big Blue Button BN. You could give a little description each week so that when you look at the recordings, you can tell them apart, in addition to by their date. Once you join, Big Blue Button will tell you where the session started, how many people are in it. If you're the moderator, you'll have the ability to end the session. And after you come back, students would be able to see, after the session's done, be able to see the recordings here. And they see the date, and the moderator, or sorry, the instructor in the course would be able to hide and delete the recordings. So really trying to leverage what Moodle provides, make it deep into the integration, super simple to do, put a link in the course, single sign-on, the whole bit. I'm gonna go back. So I'm gonna talk a little bit more about the product and then talk about the current version and then what we're planning. So Big Blue Button is IMS certified, LTI 1.0. We are integrated with other content management systems as well, Drupal, WordPress, Tiki. We recently did an integration with Aparo OAE, the Open Academic Environment. It's a kind of a collaborative session for academics cross institutions, so they could go in, create discussions, share content. And now we've been working on with the OAE group an integration that they could collaborate using Big Blue Button. So we focus on one market, online learning. It's nice to see other things out there where people are starting to say, yes, we actually like to use Big Blue Button. That goes back to our measurement. Howard Rheingold, been using it for a while. It's not afraid, has been tweeting a couple times about that he prefers Big Blue Button over the other options. This is a quote from Mark Matthews. He's using the open source version. He's not paid anybody for anything. And he recently stated about his love of Big Blue Button. And the key thing here is the support issues are almost non-existent. For me, as a product manager, it's one thing to create a product with like 10 features. I would much rather create a product with like 6 features and they all work, as opposed to 10 features that are not well documented, or the UI is not so great, or it's easy to find things that are a little bit odd with them or don't quite work. We always focus on, let's make sure if we add features to Big Blue Button, the stability is there, then usability, then features. And if we add things to Big Blue Button, can we make a product more stable and the user interface easier to use? And as long as we can keep doing that, we are headed in the right direction. We'll talk about the current release, which you're seeing here. It has the ability to do polling. We're very happy with the polling, how it came in. And I'll do a poll. Have you tried polling in Big Blue Button yet? So you can see it'll ask you a question below. I'll wait a few moments. I've got some responses back and I'll publish. So the 3 people that responded all said yes. I saw an interface like this where I could see the responses in real time. And when I was ready, I clicked the publish. And then it just published it to the recording, or to the presentation, which will be captured in the recording. One thing that we did in this release, which again goes back to let's focus on teaching and learning. A lot of times, instructors are going to review material during the course of an evening lecture or a lecture. And in reviewing, they'll usually have slides that say, okay, I'm going to ask you some questions now and give you some options. I want you to tell me what the result is, and I'm going to see if the material which I've just gone through makes sense. Did you internalize it? So here's a typical question where instructor might say, have a question and a couple answers. Well, what we do now in Big Blue Button, when we implemented the polling, we already have the slide text in memory. We have that for JAWS, screen readers. But what we also do is we parse that text and look for a pattern, which is, looks like something has like 4 options. And if it does, we'll put a button here to give you a 1-button click to initiate a poll with 4 choices. This is just PowerPoint slide using the alphanumeric outline. What this does is it makes it very easy for the instructor to pre-populate polls by just simply putting them in the slides and rapidly go through and review the material with the students. And we see this used a lot of online nursing, which does a lot of review, makes it very easy for the instructor. So we're happy with how this came through, because again, it goes back to, can we do things in Big Blue Button that cause people to want to use it because it's so easy, or it's so it helps facilitate the teaching and learning. Emote icons. Yes, we have emote icons. It was one of those features that people have been asking for years, and we just kept focusing on the harder stuff like real-time sharing of audio and video. But this release, we did get remote icons in. And in terms of mobile, I'll be talking about it in a moment. We do have support for the Puffin browser, which is a mobile browser for Android and iOS that actually renders the web page on a server and streams it back to you. It actually works quite well with Big Blue Button. We did some tweaking so that if you join the audio in the Puffin browser, it'll actually join the audio and send up your audio and webcam to it. Yes, Matthew. Okay, well, oh my gosh, yes. Someday we'll get to emote icons in chat. That's a good point. We make use of WebRTC, the Web Real-Time Communications, which gives you very high-quality audio if you're using Firefox or Chrome. And no worries, in Safari or IE, we'll fall back to Flash audio. But this is an example of us using the latest web standards, and the WebRTC audio is nothing short of amazing. I mean, I know the technology that's gone into it, super well done in those browsers, and you're going to see more, I think, in IE and Internet Explorer, because they're also moving towards using WebRTC as well. Accessibility is really important to us and to our target market. Each release, we pay an external company to audit the accessibility support in Big Blue Button, specifically with screen readers. And they go through it and make sure that somebody using JAWS can navigate to the interface, has the proper callouts, and we do this each release as we add new capability, so that we can then get a statement from them, which we put up on our website. I put the link there, that the external company states our support for accessibility standards. So I mentioned JAWS screen reader. One of the things that we're working on is also closed captioning, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. Just some metrics in the project. I track these in terms of, for a release, how many defects did we fix? How many enhancements did we make? You kind of see a trend here where the number of defects we're fixing each release is less and less, and also the number of enhancements are kind of less and less. Doesn't mean that we're enhancing the product less. It means that a lot of the core capability is now in there, and the features that we're working on are something like polling or emojis. So the number of new enhancements aren't large, but they're the ones that our market wants now that everything else is in place. And also the number of defects that we fix also goes down. And that reflects that we put so much effort into testing each release. In terms of the velocity of our release cycles, it never was planned this way. The previous releases, and three of the previous 4 releases, the first 3 had 17-month development cycles, and then the last had a 12-month development cycle. We had beta tested this product for many months. We made sure that we fixed everything we could. So what you're looking at here and what we're using now is what we call our 1.0 release, which I think, again, is about the 15th release. But we keep the numbers conservative because we want to under-promise, over-deliver, and because we're Canadian. All right, so let me talk about the roadmap ahead for 2016. These are the items, the 3 features that we're working on: breakout rooms, closed captioning, faster desktop sharing, and in parallel, we're working on an HTML5 client for mobile. And that will be for the viewers first. The idea is that a student could join, and there'll be a couple iterations of the mobile client we expect, and we'll get into the capabilities of the moderator presenter. But the idea here is a student is coming in on public transportation and would like to join the course that's online. Breakout rooms. So these are screenshots. It's actually pretty far in the development. And these features we're working hard to get out for the summer, like this year. And we want to make it available for the fall term. I'll go back to my earlier points. If the quality's not there, we will spend our time working on it, but we're working really hard to make sure it's available in the summer. You'll probably see it come out as a beta, summer or early fall. Again, it's just the focus is on quality first, and we're never going to sacrifice that. It's just paid off so well for us in the past, especially where, like, the US Department of Defense downloaded our open source and just decided to build a huge system around it after a lot of careful analysis of the product, and they found it to be pretty good. That was a release 2 years ago that they built on. So breakout rooms, what's going to look like? So instructors, any moderator that comes into the session has this gear icon, which kind of has some extra controls on the users. There'll be new entry here for breakout rooms. When they go into it, there'll be a dialog box that will open up, and the dialog box will give them the ability to have how many number of rooms, between 2 and 5. You can set a time limit for it. And then the students will be randomly assigned to breakout rooms. And the instructor will be able to drag and drop between them and maybe drag a student where it's not assigned to a breakout room. And when they're ready to go, they click Start. And when they click Start, the students will see a dialog box appear that says, you've been invited to join a breakout room. And if you want to join, click Yes. And just let them know when you join, you're going to leave the audio in the current session. And what will happen is they'll open up a new tab and join the breakout room. So they'll be now in 2 Big Blue Button sessions. They're still in the main session, but the breakout room will be as a moderator. Everybody coming in will be a moderator, so they can make anyone presenter, including themselves, share, collaborate, the whole bit. The instructor will actually have visibility on what's going on in the breakout rooms. So this is what it will look like. They'll see a number prefixed to the user's name that'll tell them which breakout room that they're in. And they'll also see in the users list a table appear which will show each breakout room, how many users are there. And then we give the instructor 2 capabilities. One is the instructor can click the headset icon and listen in on the breakout room. They'll appear in the users list. They won't see the chat or anything, but they're just listening in on the audio. And it's analogous to having a group of students in a class break into tables and just walking amongst the tables. and kind of listening in. The other button will allow the instructor to open up a new tab and join the breakout room. And that way they can see what the students are doing and so on. We showed this to one school and they asked us, if we have 4 breakout rooms, can we open up 4 tabs and just kind of tab back and forth to see what students are working on? Yes, there's no limitation for this. If you have 4 breakout rooms, you could have 4 tabs. So we tried to make it analogous to what an instructor would do in a live class with regards to breaking students up and bringing them back together. And in terms of bringing them back together, the students will see above the chat window the countdown timer. So if the instructor set 10 minutes for the breakout rooms, they'll be right above the chat, right above the send button, a countdown that counts down to 0. And when it hits 0, the breakout room closes. And the instructor could at any time close all the breakout rooms as well. When the breakout room closes, what the students would do is come back to the previous tab, which is the main session, which they've never left, and rejoin the audio. And the reason we have them rejoin is that we're making sure that the student is only really in one audio session at a time. When they go to the breakout room, we'll drop them from the audio in the main room. They'll join the breakout room. It's a new Big Blue Button session. And when that session closes, they come back to the previous tab and just rejoin the audio again. Yeah, we think it's gonna, this is what we want, is to make it easy to facilitate group work. Closed captioning. This is another leg of the accessibility, which is super important to us. So these are designs, but it's looking pretty close to this. There's kind of 2 use cases to closed captioning. The main use case here is doing the real-time captioning. So a school has a stenographer that's going to join the session live and provide live closed captioning. So the way they would do that is they would join as a moderator. Let's say the stenographer is given access to the course and given the permission to join as a moderator. When they join, they can go to the closed captioning layout, and they'll see a dialog box that looks like this. They can choose a language stream, a point size, they can see what students will see, and there's an input field here. As they type, so they hook up a stenograph machine to their computer, like a court stenographer, the words are coming through, they can hit send to do new lines, and as they type, those words appear up here. If you're a student, you can join it and you would pick a language stream. So there could be 2 stenographers, one doing Spanish, one doing English, one doing French, and so on. You pick the language stream that's active for one of them, and you'll see the text come across live. We then capture all that, and after their session's done and recorded, you'll be able to view it in the closed captioning. Okay, so I'm going to just go through the rest of it a little bit quicker. There's got a few more visuals. We're working on a faster desktop sharing, which will, instead of being an applet launching from what's inside the browser, it'll be a Java application launching outside the browser using the Java Network Launch Protocol. It'll be faster. It'll mean Chrome can share their desktop again, and it'll actually capture the cursor as well. It's going to be just a little bit of different workflow and a little larger download, but I think overall people will be quite happy with it. HTML5. So I'm going to show you some UI designs that we've been working on for the HTML5 client. So we did a lot of work at the last summit. These are up on our website, but here's what the mobile design looks like. We really want to create a mobile interface that looks like a mobile client. In other words, it follows the UI conventions that you'd expect in mobile and would be familiar to other kind of chat or interactive like mobile apps. So here it is, also scalable going up to tablet. So here it is on an iPad. Portrait, you can see the chat, the users list here. And there it is, sort of like full screen. And there's the users list. So you can see the users list changing to be a bit more iconic. The icons are still there, and the chats will be up here. So you could have a private chat, another private chat, and they'll be listed at top instead of tabs at the top. And as I said earlier, we'll do this in I think I had 3 phases here, actually probably 2. Phase 1 will be for this year, sometime before the end of the year, fewer capabilities, and it'll be targeting Android. And we're going to work on an iOS version using the React native. So we're using React to create the HTML5 client. And the phase 2 after this will be 2-way video, moderator, presenter capabilities as well. Looking ahead, there's a couple other features that are a little bit later on our roadmap, using WebRTC for desktop sharing. So if you're using Firefox or Chrome, you would not need to have Java installed. Shared notes, multi-user whiteboard, share video audio files. These are other things we've heard, but we always try to prioritize, and we probably think that closed captioning and breakout rooms will serve the community well. And this is the last slide. This is the contact information for the project, where you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and so on. So I have a few moments left. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thanks, Diljot. Yeah.
Hi, Gareth. Oh, there's an echo there. Whoops. Hi, Fred. Thank you. Oops. If I just a second.
Oh, here, hang on. I have my audio turned up. You're hearing my feedback. Now try talking.
Feedback. Great. I just muted. Thank you. It's Gareth on the iMoot team. Thank you very much indeed, Fred, for your time talking about Big Blue Button. It's sort of, I've seen it over the years come on leaps and bounds. It's always great to use it. And also, on behalf of the iMoot team, thank you very much indeed for sponsoring iMoot 2016. And I hope you sort of come to more sessions and see other things and see all the great things that are going along. And please, everybody in the chat, give a big round of applause for Fred and Big Blue Button. Thank you.
My pleasure, Gareth. Thanks everyone for coming out.